Hi, okay. What we're going to look at today is how to get a Simxperience 2 degrees of freedom plus traction loss simulator working with Simtools. Now, why might you want to use Simtools instead of Sim Commander, which you can get directly from the Simxperience? Well, probably the main reasons are a couple. They're Elite Dangerous Horizons support, Gran Turismo 7 on the PlayStation, and possibly Star Wars Squadrons. I don't think these are available on Sim Commander, so the main reason I'm doing it is to get support for Gran Turismo 7. So let's see what you have to do to first get the software configured for working with the simulator, and then we'll look at Gran Turismo 7 specifically and what to do there. So the first thing you need to do is, you won't necessarily see a screen like this. It will be blank, or it might look like this. But what you need to do is go into the plugin manager. Of course, the first thing you actually need to do is buy the software. I've gone with the professional license. It's a lifetime license. It's about $60, I think. At the moment it's on sale for that price. I think it's normally $100. That gives you access to all the plugins for all the games that they have worked on, and it gives you lifetime access to Simtools version 2 and version 3. This is the version 3 beta that I'm using now, so hopefully it should stay true for all of version 3, which is the latest version of Simtools. I'm recording this in 2023, so if you're coming back to this from the future, hopefully it's still relevant. It's not that intuitive, but it is if you know simulators, but not if you're new to it. So if you've just bought your Simxperience simulator, this could be very new. This could be very new. So there's the Simtools. You open it, and it looks like this. And then you can go into Plugin Manager, and there are game plugins, axis plugins, interface plugins, and then these other three, which are probably not as important, but these three are the top ones. So the first one is game plugins. So that's, you can see like a list of game plugins here. Let me just pause. So to get these plugins, you need to go to the plugin manager, go to game plugins, and then go to repo, and then you'll see Simtools. That's the repository from the community, and then there's computer and there's console. So for computer ones, go on here and you can see all the supported games. So there's American Truck Simulator and Automobilista and DCS and all of those. And there are a whole load of supported games. This list scrolls down really far. There's like roller coasters and racing games, a lot of racing games obviously. Flight simulators like War Thunder. You've got Microsoft Flight Simulator, I believe. Somewhere is on here. Yeah, like Microsoft Flight Simulator. All of those. So just click one that you want, say like that you want to install, say like Kartcraft, and then click install. So do you want to install the plugin? You just say yes, and then it says, oh, before you patch this, please complete one race in the game. So for some games that I haven't done that yet. So this is a new computer, so I haven't raced. So before you do this, you need to open the game and complete one race, and then go in and do it. So I'm not going to install that one just yet. I wonder why I haven't got that one installed yet. So those are the PC ones, but if you're interested in Gran Turismo 7, then you need to go on to console, and then you see Gran Turismo 7. It's also Forza, so you might have like an Xbox. and then you can get telemetry from those to play with your simulator. So just to go over that again, it's repo section, then Simtools, then console, then Gran Turismo 7, and then you install that. Okay, and it will tell you that there's an extra thing you need to install as well, and that I'll put a link for in the description. But on the PS5 you would need to go into settings and network settings and view network connection status and find the IP address of your PlayStation 5. Now it's probably going to be different from this, but you will be able to see that. I'll show that in a moment. And then you need to install this GT7 Proxy.exe, which I'll put the link in the description below, and then you need to use a command prompt to run this proxy, and then you'll get the telemetry data from the PlayStation. I'll come back to that in a moment, but I'm talking about Simtools now, but I'll come back to that. Right, so in the Simtools we have just done the game plugin, which was the GT7 plugin. Now we need to do access plugins. So if I go into the repository for the O's, right, now I've got it. Access plugins. There's generic 2D advanced, generic 2D basic, generic 2D standard, and then 3D linear and 3D rotating. Alright, so if you have a 2 degree of freedom, or even a 3 degree of freedom like Simxperience, Seat Mover Plus traction control, you need the generic 2D standard one. The 3D linear and 3D rotating are for Stewart platforms, I believe. So they're the ones that have got like on a hexapod that can do all of these things with 6 actuators. So those are the 3D ones. The 2D one should be fine for anything Simxperience, so we'll go with that one. So you need to install that one, the generic 2D standard. Again, at the beginning I didn't know really which one of these I wanted. I thought the D standard for degrees of freedom. I thought this was 3 degrees of freedom because it's pitch and roll and traction loss. But no, that's not what that means. This 3D linear one is for hexapods, Stewart platforms. So you don't need this one, you need this one. So install that one. And then we've got interface plugins. Now the Simxperience actuators are SCN actuators, so you need this one here, the SCN. So install SCN. Yes, so in the interface plugins, Simxperience users need to select the SCN plugin for the interface because it's the SCN actuators that are on Simxperience motion simulators. So you need the SCN plugin activated. So that's your 3 plugins. That was the game plugin. So we installed repo, Simtools, console, Gran Turismo 7. That one. And access plugins, we went repo. Hang on. How do I do that? Access plugins. It was generic 2D standard for the axis for Simxperience, Seat Mover or Seat Mover Plus traction loss. And on the interface plugin, we wanted the SCN plugins for the SCN actuators that are attached to a Simxperience simulator. So with those 3 things done, we need to go back to home and then this hamburger menu icon to do the interface setup. When you are presented with the interface setup, you'll see all these interfaces across the top, and then this is largely blank. Right? So it can be very intimidating for a new user. What do you even do? Okay, So on a Simxperience seat mover, you will have two axes. You will have the two, well, rather than that, you have two interfaces, and you need one interface per actuator. So you can have up to 6, but if you've got a seat mover, you'll have two interfaces, the one on either side of your seat. And if you've got the seat mover and traction loss, you'll have the two on the seat and the one that moves the whole rig from side to side for traction loss, and that will be on interface 3. So what we can do is start with interface 1, and then you'll want to try and set it up similar to the way that I've done it, at least initially, and then you'll probably want to tweak it later. So we'll interface 1, and you'll select SCN because that is the type of actuator that we've got, and then you need to select a COM port. Now COM ports, you need to identify which one your actuators are on. The easiest way to do that is to look in Device Manager. If you can press Windows, this is on Windows 10 or 11 I think, if you press Windows X, then you can get straight to Device Manager, and then you can go to Ports, COM and LPT, and then you'll see for some reason that I've actually got 4 COM ports active. I don't know why it's 4, I've only got 3 actuators, but for some reason I'm getting 4 COM ports. But the first 3, oh, that's because the Simxperience SX4000 that I've got has got outputs for 4. It has got outputs for 4 actuators, but I've got them plugged in to the first 3. That's why it's showing 4. I wondered why that was. I spent ages thinking about that, going, I've only got 3 actuators, why are there 4 COM ports showing? It's because you plug your actuators into 3 of the 4 possible outputs from this. So okay, so I know that I've got my actuators on COM port 3, 4 and 5, and 6 is empty. So it's 3, 4 and 5 that we need. And I also know that the COM port 3 is my left hand actuator, and then COM port 4 is the right hand actuator, and COM port 5 is the traction loss. So I'm going to do it in that order. So I'll need to pick COM port 3 first. So for each actuator then is a different interface. So interface 1 is the left rear actuator. Select SCN. So assign it to axis 1A. You've got a choice of 2 here, but assign it just to axis 1A on the first one. Select COM port 3 for me. That was the first of my 3 Simxperience COM ports. Output rate. Now you may want to change these, but just to start with, I've got it down as 10 milliseconds. That seems to work fine. And then speed, I've got that in the middle, so 10,000 and 500 on acceleration. Now this is pretty fast, so you might want to reduce this a little bit, but this is pretty fast. But it does mean it is responsive. So you can try these settings first. Now we can test those. So if I go into test settings, now it's only axis 1A that should be active, because that is the only one that we've assigned to this interface 1. So if I go back on stop testing, you see COM port 3 is the one that's on this interface, and it's axis 1A. Right, it'd be great if you could rename these. So that's a thought for future, to make it more obvious what this is about. You can perhaps give it a name so it's more understandable. But if I go on to test settings, now if I move axis 1A, I should hear the simulator move, and I do, and you need to move this really gently. Okay, and I'm going to show you that now. Hang on. Okay, here's the simulator. Okay, and you can see the 2 actuators at the back, and there's my Simxperience SX4000. That's the traction loss actuator, and these 2 here are the 2 ones that move the seat. So if I move that axis 1A, you should see the left actuator just compress if I go to the left. You can see how violent it is, which is why I think you might want to change the speed a bit lower. Okay, so we can extend it out. And if I stop testing, you should see it return. Okay, so that's that one done. You can save that one. And that should be fine. Okay, settings saved. And then you go on to interface 2. And then you want COM port 4 this time. And axis 2A. For your second axis, this should be the one that moves the right hand side of the seat. Same output rate, same speed and acceleration. So I've got 10,500. And if I test that one, again, now it's axis 2A. So if we go back to the simulator, you should see that as I move 2A, the seat begins to move. And you can see it's the right, it's now the right hand side that is extending and compressing, and you can see how much this moves and how violent it is. Okay, now that is that done. And now if you've got traction loss, which is this this third actuator that's on the floor, then you'll need to do interface 3. I say interface to show my face, it's terrible. Okay, so stop testing on that and then go to interface 3. So this one is now COM port 5, output rate's the same, 10, and the speed is 10,000 and acceleration is 500. And now we've got axis 3A. So if I go into test settings, now it's axis 3A that should respond. So if I go and look at the actuator down there, then if I extend that, you should see that one extending. And then this one makes it compress, and again I'm moving that very slowly. And then if I stop testing, it should return to the middle. And now we need to do the axis assignments. Now it's pretty hard to find those because I'm thinking, oh, now I need to assign those axes to the movement that you want. Right, so now, as I said, you need to assign these axes to the movement you want, and I couldn't initially see where that was. So if you go back to home, and now you need to select any one of these. So if we go into, say, Gran Turismo 7, and then we click on the wavy lines, that is the axis assignments for the simulator for this game. You can have different axis assignments for every game if you want, but what it will do when you save them, it will save them to the default profile, and that is one that you can apply to every game automatically. So you only have to do this once if you like, but you can also tweak it for every game, and also you can have different ones even for different cars by making different profiles for different cars if you want. So okay, so there's a lot of power in this software, but it's not necessarily that intuitive to use initially. Okay, so we have our 3 interfaces. Were they called interfaces before? I think they were called interfaces before, but now we have, oh no, what were they called before? Oh, let's go back and look. Yeah, we have our 3 interfaces set up. Interface 1, 2 and 3, I was right. 3 interfaces, and now we need to set axes. So the wavy lines. Right. So this is slightly confusing that these are now called axes. But actually, these are the interfaces that we had before. So as before they were called interfaces, and here they're called axes, and I'm not quite sure why. Oh right, now I remember. Okay, back into the interfaces. If you remember, when we assigned the actuators, we assigned them to an axis. So though it was called interface, we were assigning them to an axis. Okay, so in the interfaces, Such a segue. In the interfaces, we set up interface 1, 2, and 3. Those were our three actuators. And then we assigned them from the COM ports and assigned them to these axes. Axis 1A was the left actuator. Axis 2A was our right actuator. And axis 3A was the traction loss. Okay? So that's why they're now called axes, because they're the ones that have been assigned to. Okay. Okay. Right. So now if we go back into the home and then click on the wavy lines, we can now assign motion to each axis, right? So for each kind of motion, you'll need one or other of the axes to move. So if we want to initiate roll on the simulator, so if that's when the chair does this, then we need to assign roll to move the axes that move the seat like this. So in order to initiate roll, I need a positive direction roll force on axis 1A. So this is positive direction, there's roll, and then the percentage is the percentage of the motion of the actuator that will be assigned to roll. Okay, so if you think about it, if you are both rolling and pitching forward, right, so this actuator might do this much roll and this much pitch. Okay, and also you've got surge as well. So surge is when you're getting this forward and backward motion. You can't really do that with this simulator, but you can simulate it by tipping the simulator forwards and backwards. So you can kind of simulate acceleration by tipping you backwards. That gives you a fake impression that you're being pushed back into your seat. And you can simulate braking by being pushed forwards, so you can move the seat forwards if you want. So you can see the same actuator, the one that moves the seat, will be activated for roll and also pitch and surge and possibly sway as well. So this axis, I've assigned 20% to each one of those things. But let's just concentrate on roll, because it's easier to do it instead of by axis. It's easier to do it by force to begin with. But that was easy for me to understand anyway. So I did roll first. So I looked at roll. So I applied roll positive on the left actuator and a reversed direction on the right actuator for 20%. So let's see what that does. I can test settings and then I can look at roll. As I slide the slider across for roll, you should see one of the back axes extending and one compressing. Now you see that I've only selected about 20% of the motion of the axes to this. Okay, so we can stop testing that, and then we can look at pitch. Now that is like the if you were pitching up or down in an aircraft. So again, I've assigned both the left and right axes to positive, and again I've assigned 20% of the motion to that. So if we go into test settings and we go to pitch, which is here, you should see the seat move. It's moving forwards as I roll it forwards, and then back as I roll it back. Forwards and back. Okay, stop that. And then the next one I did was surge. Again, this is the same as pitch. It's assigned the same as pitch. So I've got both of these set as positive and 20%. So if I go into test settings and do surge, it's here. So I go forwards and backwards. I don't know if I've assigned those the right way around. They might both need to be negative, but I think that's right. And then I've got sway. So this is like if you could get the machine to move left and right, you could put it on there. Anyway, I've got them set to 20% positive on this one and negative on this one. So same as the roll. I've got it set the same. It may be wrong. It may be wrong, but that's how I've got it. So sway is set to do this and this. Okay, stop testing. And then for the traction loss, I've got positive traction 30% on axis 3, which is our floor-based actuator. So if I go on to traction loss and do this, you should see the whole sim move using that actuator, which it does do. Okay, and then I've got the same for yaw. Again, I'm using that axis for yaw. So if I go into test settings and go to yaw, and as I move this, it should do the same thing as the traction loss. Not sure if I've got sway right. Anyway, that's what I've got plugged in. Then I've got the profile intensity. I have that set to 75%, but the most important thing probably is this button here, the axis limiting. I've gone in here and I've set all of the actuators to 90%. Right, so that means that it doesn't go all the way to the end of the actuator and bump off the ends. This is a longevity consideration for your actuators. You don't want them fully moving at full speed and then bumping off the ends right at the end of their travel. So instead, you set the range of motion to 90%, and that's cutting it off from the shortest section of travel and the longest. And I've done it for all three axes. So I've set them all to 90. It's kind of a pain, really. There ought to be like maybe a button that you could like move all of them at once rather than having to individually go into these. These are quite fiddly to set, but once you've set it, that's it done. And then if you go back to axis assignments, if you then save this, it will then prompt you if you want to set this as your global profile, and you can press yes, and that will then be applied to every game and simulator by default, I believe. And that could make it a lot easier for you, because it means you don't have to go into everyone and set these all individually. So I've set 20% for each one of these, 20% for each one of these, so that gives an axis total of 80%, and 30% for these, and that gives an axis total of 60%. So the whole sim rig isn't going to move fully. You can experiment with these. I don't know if it's a good idea to go over 100 with these, because presumably if you had full roll, pitch, surge and sway all happening at once, then you get to the end of your travel and you wouldn't be able to do anything. Now I think some of these should have filters on it, but I haven't got into that yet. I need to go back and look, but I think I had washout on some of these. I don't know how to turn this on. I don't know how to turn this on. I think I used to use washout on surge, so that when you accelerate, obviously you can't produce like full acceleration the whole time. So you have it gradually return back to center using the washout, and I think that's what washout does. I always assumed that's what it does, that you would use washout as a filter, so that you would apply surge and you get that initial acceleration, and then it would gradually return back to the center again, so that when you accelerate again, you can get that surge coming back. So that is the very basic part of setting up your simulator for motion and at least getting it moving. And now we can look at Gran Turismo 7 specifically and see if we can get anything happening there now. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is start Gran Turismo 7. on the PlayStation and find out its IP address. So let's do that now. The PlayStation, and I'm going to go to settings and go to networks and then view connection status, and then you should see on connection status you should scroll down and see IPv4 address, and that is the address that you want to note down. So in my case it's 192.168.0.80. You can load Gran Turismo 7. Okay. Right, but before we can do anything with Gran Turismo 7, we need to download and use that Gran Turismo 7 Proxy. The place I found the link for it is on Xsimulator.net, which is obviously also where you buy Simtools. And if you search for Gran Turismo 7, you will find this on the forum. And it says, before enjoying motion with Gran Turismo 7, you will need to install the GT7 Proxy from here, and the binary is here. So if you click on this, that will take you to the binary. Again, I shall put the I shall copy the link and put it in the description. You'll need this GT7 Proxy.exe, and you'll need to download that to your computer. And then you need to put it in a place that you can easily get to. So I have put it into a folder. I think I put it in. This is what you need, this GT7 Proxy, and that you will need to run in a command prompt. So if you press Windows and then type command, you can get command prompt. And then you need to be in the right directory. So mine is on a different drive, so it's on D. So first I need to change directory to D. So if I go D:, it changes directory to D. And then I need to change directory to games GT7. So I need to do CD games to change into the games directory. CD GT7. That's in the right place now. We're in the same place as this. Then I need to run a specific command. Now the specific command is /GT7Proxy.exe --PS_IP, and then the IP address that you found on your PlayStation a moment ago. So if I copy all of that, let's see if I can type it correctly for you. So okay, /, have I got that the right way around? No, I haven't. It's // GT7Proxy.exe. Oh, I love having things open. GT7Proxy.exe -- what was it? Oh no, I haven't. --PS_IP /PS_IP, then 192.168, and then this will be the IP address of your PlayStation, which you've just looked up, and hopefully that will then do this. Okay, now if it says exception timeout, you've probably put in the IP address wrong, and that's probably what's happened here. But I will if it comes up exception timed out, it almost certainly means you put the IP address in wrong. But let's just quickly Gran Turismo 7 and just double check those numbers. 1 second. Okay, back on GT7 then. Let's go into world map. Let's actually start a race. I think I was trying to do a rally race. So if I put Americas, and there goes, I think it's Fisherman's Ranch, and put this one in, enter. So I start that. Jet Champions Fisherman's Ranch, start. Yeah, we're definitely not getting anything happening here. So let me go back to the computer and see what's happening there. Okay, I think I see what I did. I did type in the IP address wrong. So if I click into that command prompt and Control C to quit, I can see now that I typed this wrong. It's supposed to be 192.168.080, so I had it wrong. So hopefully now, now we're getting some data coming up. So if I go back into Gran Turismo 7, we should see these numbers change as I accelerate the car. So if I accelerate the car, you should see these numbers all rapidly change, so the revs change, things like that. Okay. So we now have got the telemetry data showing up on our computer. As I say, if it comes out exception timeout, it's almost certainly that you've typed in the IP address wrong, so just double check that. You can Control C quit and then just make sure you've got that command absolutely correct in the command prompt. So with that running, now if we go back to the Simtools, so I go click in here, it doesn't have an icon here on the taskbar, it's in the tray. So if I click on Simtools in the tray, and then in order to run the simulator for Gran Turismo 7, I have to double click on this icon here. So if I double click here, it will then run. And if you just heard that, that was the simulator then moving. I'm not quite sure what I did to get it going again. Again, I've just gone back into this and restarted it. For a second that I like completely lost the ability to move the simulator, but now it seems to be working again. So let me just show you Gran Turismo 7 and the motion. So here's Gran Turismo 7 working. And as I move the car, you can see it like it's trying to move. And that's based on telemetry, not on like joystick inputs. You can see it's pretty violent, especially in the rally parts. There's a lot of bumps in the road. Oh, of course, I'm not changing gear. It's probably not helping. There's a spin and traction loss. Pretty noisy, so I don't know how easy it would be to stream using the simulator. Depends if you can still hear me or not. Hopefully you can still hear me. And that's a bit of a crash. Okay, so that is how you can connect your simulator using Simtools to a console and Gran Turismo 7. I hope that has helped you. So all that remains for me to do is to, as the simulator just comes to a complete halt, is to show you how to stop the simulator from moving. So if you click on this, it will stop the simulator dead. And that's a good thing because it was noisy. And so I hope that has helped. I need to go back and edit this and remove any data which shows my serial number and stuff. But after that, hopefully you should be able to get this working with Gran Turismo 7. And then if you look in my other videos where I show you how you can make a gimmicks adapter and buying the drive hub and a Hori controller, you can get your Simxperience AccuForce wheel and force feedback also working, and with your pedals you can use Gran Turismo 7 with a motion sim completely through your PC. So if you look in that video, that shows you how to do that, and then you can get everything working together. I hope that's helped. Yeah, please go back and look at that and subscribe and click the bell button, and we'll see you in the next video. So what remains for me to do is to elegantly end the stream. It's not a stream, it's just recording, because I'm going to elegantly end the recording then. So I will catch you in the next one. Alright, cheers, bye.